pen lovers and stationery enthusiasts. It's Christy here, Snarky Wordsworth over on Instagram and Reddit. And today, if you couldn't guess, I'm doing my 2023 planner and journal lineup. I'd actually planned to do a Techo Kaigi at the very end of December, but I ended up getting super duper sick and I just couldn't. I actually have only just finished transitioning over from my 2022 planners into my 2023. So this was actually the first time that I really could do this. I'm just going to break everything down. I will make sure to chapter all the different elements down below so that you can just skip ahead and you won't have to listen to me natter on about other random things. But this will be quite chatty, so buckle up for that. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the way that I work my planner systems. Okay, so these 3 books are the core of my day-to-day planning system. Prior to fourth quarter last year, I'd only been in 2 books, these ones, but it was getting to be a bit too much, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. So I did end up adding this 3rd one. This one that I just added, scoot these away, is an A5 size Moterm. It's the old one that's the pebbled leather and not the veg tan. I did buy this ages and ages ago. I just never had a use for it until around September of 2022. And that's when I turned this into my dedicated work planner. Prior to having just a dedicated work planner, I'd always multitasked my personal and work planner in my Hobonichi Weeks, and it was just getting a little too crazy. It was being taken over by my work plans, and I never really put anything about my own life in there, and it just was no longer working. So in, say, August or so of 2022, I decided I really just need to transition over to something just dedicated to my job. And so I did start using this, and I do really like it. It has more pockets than I could ever possibly imagine needing, but that's beside the point. It houses the books that I have in here really, really well. So my work planner consists of 2 notebooks. This one over here is the Kanso Noto from JetPens. It's just a plain dot grid Tomoe River paper housed notebook, and I have a Midori clear cover on top of that because I really just love clear covers. They keep everything neat and clean. And I have always been enamored with sort of a weekly layout. So since it's blank, I was able to just do however I wanted. And I have calendar pages up front. And I just did through December of 2023. And after I did the December 2023, and I just have, it's a really simple layout. This is early on in January, and I should have many more notes here as time goes by. But you can see it's a pretty simple layout. So after we go through the monthlies, I do have weekly pages, which I really, really like. Very much like the Traveler's Notebook planner inserts, if you've ever used those, which is one of the first weeklies that I used that was similar to this system, where you've got on one side your your separated days and then just plenty of blank space for notes and everything like that. And it really works well for me. The Hobonichi Weeks is very similar in that it has a much smaller space to have all of these notes. And I'm not all caught up with last week, but I do have all of my appointments and the different events that I run and the programs that I've planned for the week. And then I have my general running to-do list that these tasks aren't necessarily day and date related. Those ones that I have to get finished are going to be actually on the days. And then on this page, I've already got some post-its covering. I will talk about how a program went, any problems, things that I want to think about for the next year. I also do one-on-one technology consults with different patrons, and I'll have notes about them and what's going on in this side as well. And then I just use sticky notes a ton anyway, what things that I want to talk about in weekly meetings. And being able to have this huge page is really, really helpful. If we flipped back, which I'm not going to do right now, there's there's plenty of room for me to do that, which I didn't have, of course, when I was using my Hobonichi Weeks for both work and personal stuff. There just wasn't space. Even with that whole section of notes in the back, I would always run out, and it was always really frustrating. And, I honestly I stopped pretty much planning personal stuff in there because it would just get overrun. And so I just would putting it in my phone, and I hated that. So yeah, that's why I ended up going with this work only planner, and I really like it. I don't mind that I have to essentially draw in everything. I actually prefer that because it lets me sort of be flexible. Other things that are interesting about this one, I do like, so I always have this little cat in the back pocket. There's so many pockets, but since this is like work based, I don't really put too much extra stuff in here. I have these little dots just because I use those to mark off different appointments and events that I've got going on, just so that they're sort of like a highlight. And then I always have some kind of post-it because I just use post-its. I generally don't use the giant pocket in the back, except right now I'm going to be doing a collaging event. So I have like some fussy cut ephemera in here just so that I can keep it safe and keep it flat and on hand at all times. So that is in here for right now, but it won't be in just a couple of weeks. Anyway, so that is, oh, I totally forgot about this one. So that was what I just talked about was my Kansonoto, the A5 from Jet Pens. But in addition to having this, I also have this separate Paper Penguin Company grid-lined A5 blank notebook. And I just use this as a programming brain dump. So if I have programs coming up, I do a lot of cooking events. I do out the menu. I write down shopping lists. Just general programs that I'm coming up with, like say for summer reading program, we have that sort of thing scheduled out way, way, way in advance. And so I've already got notes about some things that I've got planned in there right now. Just general logistics, brainstorming and things like that from week to week. I always have all of that in here. And this one I'm much less regimented just because it's a brain dump. So it just all goes willy-nilly, however, inside. But being able to have a whole separate book of that is really, really nice and helpful. And it fits perfectly comfortably within the Moterm. I do love that the Moterm has the two buttons so that if it did get super chunky, which I maybe by the end of the year it'll be pretty chunky, but there's no problem whatsoever having it fit on the tighter side of things. I do utilize the two bookmarks. One bookmark goes in my brain dump and the other bookmark goes on the calendar side of the actual planner. And then the pen that I most often use in this is my Sailor Pro Color 500. I believe it's in Stardust. I love this pen. It's not even a gold nib. It's just a steel. It's in fine and it's so nice. I'm never really super concerned about it, but it is very safely secured in here. The pen loop is really nice. But it's just a pretty pen and it just makes me smile. I don't know if the camera can really pick up just how lovely and sparkly it is, because it's got like a black body, but then like these really beautiful blue sparkles. I don't know. But it makes me smile anytime I use it. And sometimes when your day is really long at work, you just need an extra smile, let me tell you. So yeah, that is my work planner and what goes inside of that. Okay, moving along to my personal daily planner. This is a ChilyLeather Hobonichi Weeks cover. I've done a review on it. I'll link that somewhere around here. I don't know, somewhere. Because the pen that I always like using in this is my Pilot Elite 95S. And I have noticed like a couple scratches on it, which is kind of a bummer. But I've had it for a while and I use it every day and I love it. So it's bound to look loved at a certain point, I suppose. Anyway, so what do I have in my daily personal planner? So I have two books in here. I have one that obviously is the Hobonichi Weeks with the Disney licensed Aristocats cover because it's a cat and I am a librarian and a total cliche and I love cats. I also love Aristocats in general, but it's so cute and look at the color scheme. It's beautiful. I love it. So that is this year's Hobonichi Weeks. I've been using a Weeks, I want to say since 2017. I think I have the books still. I keep them all obviously, but I'll have to look to double check about that. But I've been using it at Hobonichi Weeks since then. And I absolutely love it. This is definitely my preferred way to plan. And so I don't foresee myself switching out, but never say never, right? And then on the left-hand side, I have my daily food log. I have a ton of weird food sensitivities, like ridiculously weird. And in order to help control health and stuff, I track down every single thing I eat, the amounts, and then that sort of helps me sort of figure out when something has shifted. I don't know if other people have weird food sensitivities like I do, but being able to track absolutely everything, while on one hand, terribly annoying when you're going about your day and you have a small snack and you don't want to have to write that you had 35 grams of apple. If I were to have a terrible reaction to that apple, I like knowing exactly how much, and maybe did I like have too much of a natural sugar or whatever. And so I put all of that in here. I had previously been using the Hobonichi branded Skinny Weeks notepads, and they're great. I don't love the material the cover's made of because you can't like decorate it very well because it's kind of almost plasticky, so adhesive is sort of hit or miss with that one. So I got another insert from Paper Penguin Co. I do love her stuff, by the by, just if you're interested. She's not sponsoring this in any way, shape, or form. I just think she makes some very nice notebooks. And it's just the week size with the Tomoe River and in the dot grid. I think she does 5mm, which sometimes I want to see if she'll do a 4, but she says right in her notes that she doesn't really do custom work right now because she gets tons of orders. So 5 is really where you're probably going to be at as far as grid size, grid or dot grid size. But yeah, it's just your basic. I've got the front page and there were all of the other entries, and here's today's entry so far. And that's really pretty much it. And it'll fill up this year. I'm sure I'll probably have to get another insert before the end of things, but that's where we are with that one. Back here, I always keep a handful of extra paper clips just because I know that I'm going to need them. I'm constantly like putting pages together and trying to bookmark my way into a quick and easy process to get to whatever I want. I usually will have a couple of different cards in here, either for straight edge cuts or to put washi on. This is one of my washi cards. I just don't have any washi on it right now. Okay, so within my Hobonichi Weeks, I always have my little stencil card. I don't really use it as much as I used to. I used to use it all the time for the little squares, but I found that I like not seeing extra lines more than I have to, so those are there. These are just a couple of fussy cut things that my work bestie printed and cut for me because she knows I'm always like intrigued by labels. So those are from her. I use the annual spread to track weight just because I find that particularly helpful. And then I just have my basic personal calendar. I'm not a big decorator. I'm pretty minimal. I use cat stickers. Again, I'm a massive librarian cliche. I love cats and tea. So I just label things like that. I do put work events that I'm running in here, so some of the work stuff does spill over, but that's because I'm going to be at that event and I need to make sure that it's in the calendar so I know not to schedule anything else over top of it. So that's the one place really of only a couple spots where the work and the personal stuff overlaps. This is a Happy Hello Art magnetic bookmark, and I believe that that's her wizarding theme set. I mean, it's clearly Crookshanks and Hermione. Who am I kidding? But yes, so I usually will use one of hers. I have some really cute ones of some Leigh Bardugo stuff too, and she makes a ton of them, or she always used to. I haven't purchased from her recently, but I've always liked her art. I always think it's really cute. And then here is my latest weekly. No, it's not. Where are you? There we go. So this is really the layout that I always use for my weeklies. Events and day specific goals, like when I'm posting on YouTube or Instagram, I'll usually put there, and then I'll fill in when something has been accomplished, appointments, things like that. And then in these little squares I have divided over here, I will usually try and put some kind of note about how I'm feeling or if the day was bad. This was primarily like, I feel terrible for the entire last couple of weeks of December and through the beginning of January. So I'm not always super creative about what I put in here, but I do try and put some details about something or something that went on or something that I was really happy about. Obviously this has not been a great day, and it's in my like stub nib pen. It's like, it was a really bad day. So I do things like that every once in a while, which I know is probably kind of juvenile, but seeing it makes me laugh after the fact. So, you know, it's your planner. Do what makes you happy. That's how I always approach it. I do use those little dot stickers again when I have a event that I'm running at the library. So on the 9th, I was running a Planner Society event. So it got the sticker, but I'm not running any events after that. So yay, it was not as crazy a week as I've had before, or that is coming down the pike. Those are going to be terrible weeks. Anyway, on the sort of note side of my weeks, I always do tracking. I track if I've taken all my meds, if I reached, right now I'm down to 20,000 steps because when I got sick, I don't know that I made 1,000 steps in a day for those couple of weeks. So I'm working my way back up to 30,000 steps a day. So right now we're still at 20. Did I do my weight check? Did I drink 64 plus ounces of water? Things like that. And those don't change too often. I do give myself a little leeway at the bottom. So if there's something special that I want to track that week, I have room and I can always shift things up and down. But sometimes I like when I can flip the page and just sort of see where the previous week was. So I don't really have to like count grids or anything. I can just sort of follow that line. Anyway, I have my to-do list. I split it in half. One part is just like regular personal stuff that I want to accomplish in the week, and the other is always social media stuff that I try and get taken care of. I always have an ink obsession. One, I'm obsessed with ink in general, but I like to be able to sort of track what ink was I using a lot this week. Or sometimes it's the tail end of the last week, and what do I really love about it? So this week it's Ferris Wheel Press's Queen Allium, and I have that in my Covecco Sport medium nib. My currentlies, right now I'm reading The Bookshop on the Corner. I'm watching this J-drama Isaya Izakaya, and I'm listening to the Howler Back Now podcast because the Teen Wolf movie is coming back in a couple weeks. I'm super excited about that because I'm a super nerd. But yeah, so like those kinds of things, that's what ends up in my currentlies. And then in the far back notes section, so I usually will have one page, and this is just like if I'm randomly in the middle of the day, I have some idea for something that I might want to do for a future video or whatever, I thought I'd have a page for that. So video ideas here. Every month I do a currently inked, and then it's just sort of a running list if I add a pen or if I re-ink a pen, just so I know what ink is where, because this is a lot of pens, to be honest. I don't know why I have this many, but I do write a ton of letters every month, and I really do use all of these repeatedly. I have some that are like my daily use ones, but I've used every single one of these pens at least for one very long letter, so it is what it is. And I don't like super fill the pens either, because I know that I don't want to waste any ink and I don't want it to dry in the pen. So there's that. So this was my currently's January. And then these are just daily lists that I have. I track the things that I do, the things that I accomplish, and I will X them off as I get them accomplished and just, do I still want to do it, or am I moving it forward? And there's this super cute Me First, I'm Not Spoiled, I'm Pampered Shitajiki board. This one was so cute. How could I not have gotten the Aristocats version? I just, seriously. So that's generally what I do in my weeks. Yeah, and that's what I'm planning for 2023. Now in the back of my ChilyLeather is this like secretarial pocket. I always have my trusty Westcott clear plastic 6-inch ruler. Right now the stickers I've got in here are super cute cat stickers. I don't know if it's going to be all messed up and it can't pick up, but I have those stickers. And then I always have like a few blotters. So if I'm in a rush and I can't wait for the book or for the page to dry, I'll slip this in just so that the ink has somewhere to go. And you can see we're a couple weeks in and we're already getting ink stains. And I just have a few of those just in the back so I can shove them into different slots within the book. And that's helpful. It's especially helpful with my food tracker since I'll just quickly write that in, slap one of those in there and close it and not have to worry any further. But yeah. Then the last one that I want to talk about as far as my core system is my everyday carry. This is a passport-sized traveler's notebook. I've had this for years. Beside the point. This one goes with me everywhere. It's gotten significantly more chunky since I got the Galen wallet insert, but we'll talk about that in a second. This is just in the standard brown color. I always have one of these skeleton binder clips just to help me keep it flat. And the outside of everything is wrapped in a Galen leather wallet insert in the undyed leather. I do have a initial reaction video to this that I can probably link somewhere or other. I love this thing. I'm really, really liking it. I wasn't sure when I initially saw just how much overhang I ended up with if I would grow to adore it, but I do. I actually think it looks really good, and I'm curious as to how it's going to patina. But yeah, so I always use my little Kaweco brass in here just because I do keep this thing with me everywhere, and I don't drop pens often, but if I ever do drop a pen, it's usually because of this particular planner. I used to have just this plain classic black Kaweco Sport in here, and that thing has been dropped dozens of times. It's getting all scratchy at the bottom. And so a brass pen, I think, actually looks really good when it's got a little bit of a lived in look. So I'm hoping that if I do, goodness forbid, drop this, I will not hate the way it ends up looking. Hopefully I won't drop it, really, but it is what it is. And this is in extra fine. I don't keep a ton of stuff in the extra pockets just because I don't want it to be even more chunky than it already is. I keep my local coffee house card in here, and then another local coffee house's frequent user card. The first insert I have in here is wrapped in a 1.61 leather goods goat leather folder. I love this thing. It's so thin and it's so soft. It really is so soft. And I keep receipts in this one. And the insert that I keep in here is my collections, lists, notes, and thoughts insert. I just finally finished transitioning over from my 2022 to the 2023. It's organized chaos, and that's exactly what it is. I do things like, of course, I have an index to keep track of it all, but I track all of the Happy Mail that I have outstanding that's coming in soon. I have a general wish list of stuff that I'm interested in and picking up over the course of time. I have an ink wish list. I also have a fountain pen wish list, and these are always just constantly updated. And as I get things, I fill in the circles. My television series watched page. I've got a movies watched page. Or spread, I should say. Books read. There's a planner and pen vloggers, which I still have to update. I just haven't had a chance, really, truly. And then this year I'm starting a tea tracker. I have always been a big tea drinker, but I've never covered all of the teas that I drink within a year, like different, because I'm always trying different brands and different flavors. So I wanted to sort of see that, because I've gotten to the point where, did I try that? Did I not? And I'll add more pages as time goes by and I continue the transition because there's plenty of stuff from last year's. It's just, I haven't really had 100% chance to, or the gumption to do that. I do have, just like within my weeks, I do have blotter pages that I cut down to size, and I just slip those in when I know I'm not going to have time to wait for everything to dry. This other book, so this book, I don't know that I need it in my everyday carry, but I like to have it here. This tracks all of the fanfic that I read. I read a ton of legend, folklore, and mythology fanfic. I've just always been fascinated by legends and folklore in general. So I am, however, terrible about keeping track of what I've read. So I decided to try and have a little book that indexes and reviews some of the best ones that I come across. For that. And they're really, and I have another little blotter sheet and my brass clip. And what I usually do is I'll clip both sides down, and that way I have the comfort of a full spread and I don't have to worry about sort of angling my hand to keep something out of the way. It's just nice. And that's pretty much my everyday carry. This is the other side. I have like business cards in these pockets. And then I carry tip money in this, which is sadly lacking at the moment. I haven't been to the bank this week. But yeah, so that is my everyday carry. Sometimes I consider shifting another insert in here and taking the fanfic one out, but I don't know. I like it. And I love the way that this looks, and I'm always really happy to have it. It always, again, is one of those things that makes me smile, and that's what this whole thing should do. I mean, you should really enjoy and appreciate the things that you have and that are a part of your day-to-day life. Look at this chunky guy. It's so cute. I never used to like chunky planners, to be honest. I wanted something as sleek and streamlined as possible, but after this, I do really enjoy it. So those are the core items in my daily planning system, these three, and I have a number of journals that we'll go over. But yeah, if you were just looking for planner stuff, specifically like this kind, that's the end of this section. Okay, so onward to journals and journal style planners, I guess. This is my personal journal and quote collector. This is the Traveler's Notebook in standard size with the camel coloring. I've had this one, I'm pretty sure, since 2012, I want to say. I've had it for a very, very long time. And I love it. It's so soft and so just lived in, and I just adore it. I have changed out the elastic a number of times because I've had it for so long that it does tend to get wonky after a while, because this book has been huge in the past. Right now, we're still dealing with a very slim profile, but there have been times when it's been massive, because there have been times when I've used this as my day-to-day planner and used the monthly and weekly inserts for this, and then it gets huge by the end of the year, but I digress. So this little charm is a 1990s Subway token. I was going through some of my mom's stuff, and this was in one of her wallets, and I was like, I'm gonna keep that, and I really love it. I love the little clink that it makes when I drop the elastic down. It's the little things, right? It's the little things about planners that are really enjoyable. So in this one, don't have a ton of stuff in here. I'm not going to take up much time with this like I did with the planners. I've got the standard craft folder. I do think about picking up a 1.61 goods leather folder for this every once in a while, but I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. Because the craft one, I think this is still the first craft folder that I had in here like years ago. So it lasts as long as you take care of it. And the insert up front is just my quotes insert. I have like quotes from books, from songs, and it's just words that I enjoy the sound of. And it's a nice chance to sort of play around with different inks. So I go through things like that, and it makes me smile and it makes me happy. Again, that's the whole point. And yeah, so these ones I don't do by year. I just do until I fill up the book, and then I move on to the next. I've got tons of these in my archive. And I do, like with my passport sized, I always have a skeleton binder clip, because I find those are really good for holding the pages down and adding a little weight, but also looking kind of stylish. So yeah, that's the first insert. And then the second insert has another 1.61 leather goods folder, but this one has the zipper pocket. And I keep just like random ephemera in here, and then Post-its slide in there as well. And it's really light. I think this is also goat leather, so it's very, very light. It doesn't add a huge chunk to the profile. I actually don't even think it adds as much as the plastic one does. So there's that. And then this side, there's room for business cards, but I don't have any business cards in here because, like I said, it's just my personal. And I've got little notes. This just came and I love it. I'm so excited about this one. One of my pen friends just sent me a Year of the Rabbit postcard, and I collect things like this. I love Year of art and ephemera. So I'm super excited to have that one in there in a journal entry. And I just have other pieces that I'll probably tip in. as time goes by. And then this is just one of my journals. I'm not going to like flip through, like show very much, but you can see I use different inks for every single entry. Yeah, so that is my standard traveler's notebook and what goes in there. I don't think I've changed this in a very long time as far as what I keep inside. The last time I think I had the planner stuff in here was probably 2016, because I do think I switched over to the weeks in 17. So yeah, it's been several years that this has been a journal-based book. So there's that. This last year, I started doing an ink journal. I've always cataloged my ink with swatches, but I usually will use that the coloring, which I think is super convenient and I love. But because it's on a paper that I generally don't ever write on, it's not always the best as far as showing me what the ink is really going to look like in a day-to-day use situation. So I started this last year. It's just a passport-sized Tomoe River paper journal. I think this is from Toroko shop. This is like super old, and it's 52 GSM. And on the front few pages, I've got an index. And this is just whatever I happen to have inked at the time I put in an entry. And so it's not consistent. It's not like everything is in a fine nib or everything is in a stub nib. It's just willy-nilly. But I wanted a chance to see what my inks were going to look like on Tomoe River fountain pen friendly paper. And that's exactly what I've done. So I usually will have, the swatch, the kind of ink, what particular pen I'm using. And you can see some of these inks actually went through, which as far as Tomoe River goes, it doesn't happen very often. So I will say Vintage Parole, which is like one of my favorite inks for the holidays, 100% leaks right through if you're a little heavy-handed with it, which I oftentimes am. But for the most part, you don't really get that. But you can see, and then I have your standard like little squiggles that show, and like, this is how wet this ink is kind of thing. And then I like that I'm able to write a little bit about how I feel about the ink in this particular pen. Does it feel super dry? Does it feel really wet? And then I do a little block lettering sample, because of course letters really do look quite different in block lettering than they do in cursive. So I get the chance to see that. And then there's like the whatever phrase you want to use. I use Sphinx of Black Quartz, Judge My Vow, just because I like the word Sphinx and I like writing the word Sphinx. But yeah, so that's how I handle the ink journal, and I've really been liking it. I started it towards the end of last year, and I'm definitely going to continue that for 2023. And hopefully by the end of the year, we have a nice little pack of ink journal entries. Okay, this one is a new one for me this year. I've never done this before. I don't know why. I guess I usually just keep track in my everyday carry, but I don't do it as fully fleshed out as I plan to in this. So this is a very old A6 cover on cover from Hobonichi, and I'm just using inside the A6 Hobonichi notebook with the grid lines, and this is my media journal this year. So I've got an index, and then the pages will just have information about movies that I've watched throughout the year, like Little Forest. I gave it 4.5 stars. The year it was released, 2018. I watched it on the 4th of January. I gave information about who's in it, who directed it, who wrote it. And then I have my little mini review. And I'm really liking this a lot. I'm going to do movies, TV. I've not yet decided if I want to do books in here or not. But that's where we're going with this one. And I'm really excited about this. I actually think this has been a lot of fun. And I like that everything will be in one place as opposed to like having my different spreads within my EDC. So yeah, very much excited about this new addition to my journaling lineup. Okay, this one is quite old. I go in and out of using this, and I don't know why, because I do like having it. This is a Cold Creek leather cover. Yes, Cold Creek leather. You can see that. I don't know if it's picking up very well. It's in the undyed leather. I've had it for years, and you can see like where it patinas and where it doesn't. It's getting quite some character on it, and I love that. And I just have a Leuchtturm in here, and so this is sort of my art and crafting collections book. It also so like the different colors of, I've got my Sakura Pigma Micron fine liners in here, what the lines look like in the colors, and just different. I've got like my Tombow tracker in here, and it shows like which Tombows I have and which ones I'm still looking for. And clearly I don't use much pink because this is super old and I continually buy and replace Tombows, but I've never felt the need to get all of these pinks and reds. And that's one of those things that's interesting to learn about yourself. Like, I did not realize that I don't really enjoy those colors because I love like a pink pen, but I don't love pink ink, I guess. Whereas I do love purple inks. I adore green and blue. So yeah, that's really interesting. This is probably the most useful thing I have in here. From my giant 100 count Crayola Super Tips. Each one of these is numbered. It corresponds to a label that I put on the marker. So when I'm looking for this shade of sort of lilac-y purple, I know to look for number 62. And I found that to be incredibly useful. So those are just some of the different things that I track in here. And I think I'm going to try and go back to tracking the different art materials and utensils and whatnot that I use in here, because I do really like that. Like I showed you the super tips, it was a massive help to have that in here. So that's this one. Okay, final journal that I want to talk about today is this lovely one in pecan leather. This is from the company Hidemont from Ukraine. I think I actually got it from Etsy, and he calls his company something different on there, but it's a really great cover. I like it a lot. It houses another Leuchtturm. Anyway, and again, I'm using this one for my social media tracking. Just like, you know, I want to be able to have kind of a brain dump for what I'm looking at. There's the Techo Kaigi. And since I'm really pretty new to this particular channel, I have another channel on purses, like on vintage bags and whatnot, but that's, again, beside the point. I wanted to have like a little place where I could just casually write down whatever thoughts come across. I can always pop down notes in my EDC and then transfer them over. But I wanted something that all encompassing and sort of track like ideals about what I do with my social media, the whole point, what I'm getting out of it, what I want other people to possibly get out of. And so I'm going to house that in here. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to use this one for. I'm excited to sort of see where I go with it. I'm just excited to be able to do this channel in the first place, really. So there's that. So these are all of my journals for this coming year. So these are all of the journals that I've got. And we've got that stack, and then we've got my everyday planner stack with those three, and that's everything. So total, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books, which isn't terrible. And when you think about the breakdown, I think it makes much more sense. It's less ridiculous, because I definitely look at this stack personally and I'm like, what am I doing? And when I first pulled these all out, I was 100% like, what is wrong with you? But I do really use all of these, and I like the way that separating them out has worked. And I'm very much excited about having 3 just standard planners this coming year, and seeing how that affects my organization and just my overall sort of happiness with regard to planning and organizing things and whatnot. So very excited about this stack. Always excited about this stack. And hopefully some of this has been at least interesting, if not helpful. If you have any questions about any of my system or any of the covers as well, because they're really great covers. I'm so happy with all of them. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to comment below. I will, of course, answer as best I can. So with that, I am so grateful that you watched this video. If anyone is still watching after however long, it feels like I've been talking for a millennia at this point. But thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.